Hi everyone. So a lot of people often get surprised when they learn that I'm an engineer at Google after studying chemical engineering for my bachelor's and PhD. So as I'm starting out this YouTube channel, I thought I'd do a video where I formally introduce myself and share my career path from studying chemical engineering to becoming an engineer at Google. So without further ado, let's get started. My name is Pratyush Kumar. I'm a data center engineer at Google and I did my Bachelor's of Technology in Chemical Engineering at the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. I finished that in 2017. After I finished my Bachelor's, I did my PhD in Chemical Engineering at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and I finished my PhD in 2023. I think in terms of my career path, it all started when I was an undergraduate student in my sophomore or junior year. I think in about 2014 to 2015 when I was trying to decide what I would do for my career after my undergraduate. There were typically two paths that I could have taken. One was to do a job in India after my undergraduate. The other option was to pursue higher studies and do a master's or a PhD abroad. In terms of jobs, I think there were typically two types of jobs that people do. One was to do a non-technical job in India, similar to a management or something, a non-technical role. There are a lot of companies in India that hire for those types of roles. There are a lot of good paying options as well, and a lot of engineering students do that these days after doing a bachelor's in engineering. The other option was to work in a core chemical engineering company with companies like Shell or ExxonMobil. And I personally felt that the amount of jobs for core chemical engineering areas were quite less. And even the jobs that were there in India were not as high paying. And I myself wanted to stay in a core chemical engineering area, and I wanted to use my undergraduate training and stay in core chemical engineering area. So I thought that I'd be potentially interested in pursuing a master's or a PhD abroad, and when I was an undergraduate student at IIT, I decided to take up research projects with a few professors at IIT, and I ended up taking research projects in areas like data analysis, statistics, optimizations, and control. And I also applied for research internships abroad, and I ended up doing an internship at the University of Alberta in Edmonton in the summer of 2016, and that internship was sponsored and fully funded by a program known as MyTechs. They're a Canadian research organization that sponsors undergraduate students from India and a few other countries for fully funded research internships in Canada. That internship was quite good, and I had a pretty nice experience. And when I returned from that internship back to IIT Bombay at the end of my junior year, I was pretty much sold into this idea of pursuing a PhD abroad. When I went to my final year, I decided that I will apply for PhD programs. I ended up applying for about 10 to 12 PhD programs in the United States and ended up receiving offers from about 5 of the PhD programs where I applied. University of Wisconsin-Madison was one of them. I ended up joining University of Wisconsin-Madison in fall 2017 in the chemical engineering department. What happened was a year after my joining UW-Madison, my PhD advisor from that university moved to University of California, Santa Barbara, and I also wanted to keep working with that advisor, and I also moved with him from UW-Madison to UC Santa Barbara, and that's where I spent the rest of the 4.5 years of my PhD, and it was a quite nice experience doing my PhD in chemical engineering, and I finished that in 2023. When I was in my first or second year of PhD, I had to decide on a research topic for my PhD. And I was drawn to this field called process controls in chemical engineering. In case some of you might be unaware, this field deals with the automation and optimization of complex chemical engineering systems. The methods in process control could be applied to chemical engineering systems, biochemical systems, building energy systems, and in a lot of other sectors as well. So I was drawn to this field, and what was happening was when I was starting my PhD, there was a lot of interest in using artificial intelligence methods for chemical engineering. And the reason was that just a few years ago, there was a huge success of convolutional neural network methods by some few professors at University of Montreal in Canada, with professors Jeffrey Hinton and a few other colleagues who were successful in demonstrating convolutional neural networks for very challenging image recognition tasks. There is also this success by AI methods to beat the best human player in the game of Go by an AI method itself. And because of these two remarkable successes in the recent years, there is a lot of interest in using AI for chemical engineering when I was starting my PhD. So because of this hot new topic in chemical engineering, I also decided to do my PhD in an area where I investigated using artificial intelligence methods for process control specifically. Now, there were a lot of ways in which I could have used AI for process control. Typically, when people do traditionally process control of chemical plants, they would take a model and optimization based approach where we first build a dynamic model that describes the process that we're trying to automate. Then we run an optimization over that model to automate and optimize that chemical process that we're trying to automate. So if I were to use AI, there were three ways I could have used AI. One was to use machine learning models to build the dynamic model that could be then used to optimize the plant. The other way could be to use the model to speed up the optimization itself so that we can do optimization of large scale plants efficiently and faster. The last way is something like reinforcement learning. In case you've heard of that, it basically tries to automate the plant directly by learning from data and interaction with the chemical plant. And I investigated these three methods of using AI for process control and ended up writing 5 journal papers on these topics and presenting my research results at conferences. So up until my first or second year of PhD, I always thought that I would work in a core chemical engineering sector like oil and gas with companies like Shell, ExxonMobil or Chevron, or perhaps in the pharmaceutical industry with companies like Pfizer or Merck. But I think it was in my second year of PhD when I came across a research paper from teams at Google DeepMind and Google Cloud where they applied artificial intelligence methods for temperature control in data center server floors. And up until that point, I was personally unaware and unexposed to this industry of data centers. But when I read that paper, I was exposed to this new whole industry. And in case some of you might be not aware of what are data centers, they are essentially the brains of the internet, and all of information by online cloud companies like Amazon, Google, Meta, they stored their information in data centers. And data centers are essentially like large buildings where companies would host machines on data center server floors that save information that are fetched by consumers or that are provided to consumers, and these machines run 24/7. The machines need power from off-site utilities that then power the machines to run 24/7. While the machines are running, they also generate a lot of heat, and we need a dedicated cooling plant to remove the heat that is generated by the data center machines. If you think about the data center as a whole, there are a lot of optimization and efficiency opportunities typically, and the techniques from my field of process control could be applied to data centers as well. And after I learned about this field of data centers and that team who is also potentially working on artificial intelligence methods for data centers, I applied for an internship in summer 2022 in that team. They interestingly had an internship opening in that year. So applied for an internship in that team via a referral. I ended up getting an internship offer. I spent summer of 2022 in Sunnyvale and Mountain View area with Google for 3.5 months. Doing that internship, it was quite a nice experience. I worked quite hard and as a result of that, the team liked my work, and they ended up making me an offer to return to Google about a year after I did the internship. And that's generally my story on how I ended up becoming an engineer at Google after studying chemical engineering. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.